Welcome to Matflix, video streaming from maternity experts. My name is Dr. Jenny Hall. I am the box sets curator at Matflix, a fellow of the Royal College of Midwives and a former editor of The Practicing Midwife. At Matflix, we bring together videos of talks from top maternity experts into box sets to support your continued professional development, study and revalidation. It is a perfect study accompaniment for midwives, maternity professionals, midwifery students and anyone thinking about a career in the maternity services. My job is bringing together the latest thinking area by area so you do not have to. Not only do you get the video of brilliant talks and relevant content in thematic box sets, you also get access to the audio version so you can listen on the commute or while you walk the dog. Plus links to the latest research in the relevant field, government policy documents, the presenter's PowerPoint and more besides. Sign up to Matflix now for the best video streaming from maternity experts.
It's always a pleasure to be here, and I always try as hard as I can to support this excellent platform that's so flexible, that's responsive, that's contemporary, that's in people's homes, in people's pockets and in people's hands, wherever they happen to be.
I'm Nicole Rajan Brown. I'm a proud midwife and I'm proud to be supporting the Maternity and Midwifery Forum, who have helped me to grow and for creating wonderful professional digital and online resources for midwives across the globe. The Maternity and Midwifery Forum ran their programmes free and online all through COVID. Now we want to grow the catalogue, spread it worldwide and keep it free to use for students and staff. To do this, we have launched a fundraising appeal to help keep all of the 8 wonderful maternity and midwifery festivals free. Keep the weekly Maternity and Midwifery Hour and the weekly newsletters free to midwives and maternity staff. You regularly tell us how much you value these free resources, so do give what you can.
Welcome to Matflix, video streaming from maternity experts. My name is Dr. Jenny Hall. I am the box set's curator at Matflix, a fellow of the Royal College of Midwives and a former editor of The Practicing Midwife. At Matflix, we bring together videos of talks from top maternity experts into box sets to support your continued professional development, study and revalidation. It is a perfect study accompaniment for midwives, maternity professionals, midwifery students and anyone thinking about a career in the maternity services. My job is bringing together the latest thinking area by area so you do not have to. Not only do you get the video of brilliant talks and relevant content in thematic box sets, you also get access to the audio version so you can listen on the commute or while you walk the dog. Plus links to the latest research in the relevant field, government policy documents, the presenter's PowerPoint and more besides. Sign up to Matflix now for the best video streaming from maternity experts.
It's always a pleasure to be here, and I always try as hard as I can to support this excellent platform that's so flexible, that's responsive, that's contemporary, that's in people's homes, in people's pockets and in people's hands, wherever they happen to be.
I'm Nicole Rajan Brown. I'm a proud midwife and I'm proud to be supporting the Maternity and Midwifery Forum, who have helped me to grow and for creating wonderful professional digital and online resources for midwives across the globe. The Maternity and Midwifery Forum ran their programmes free and online all through COVID. Now we want to grow the catalogue, spread it worldwide and keep it free to use for students and staff. To do this, we have launched a fundraising appeal to help keep all of the 8 wonderful maternity and midwifery festivals free. Keep the weekly Maternity and Midwifery Hour and the weekly newsletters free to midwives and maternity staff. You regularly tell us how much you value these free resources, so do give what you can.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this week's Maternity and Midwifery Hour. My name's Sue MacDonald, and I'm the curator for the Maternity and Midwifery Hour and the Maternity and Midwifery Festivals, and it's my pleasure to be chairing this evening's session. Now, we originally had two speakers, but we have one because one person is poorly, and that's so therefore we have Sinead O'Kane with us. And just because we always do this, and this means we're only going to have one moment of the week, but we might squeeze out another moment in a minute. So Sinead, can you share with us your moment of the week, please? And welcome.
Thank you, Sue. So my moment of the week is I am a cyclist. I do a bit of cycling at the weekends. Now, they always involve stopping at a coffee shop, so I never become calorie deficit. I make sure that I'm always in credit with the calories. So this last weekend, I was able to get out on my bike, which was the first time since last October, which was absolutely lovely. I had a great cycle on Sunday morning.
Wonderful. Very healthy, and I do like your attention to calorie deficit and avoiding it at all perils. So thank you for sharing that. Now, we would have had Romy Luxton with us this evening, but she's poorly and she's lost her voice. And of course, if you lost your voice and you come onto the maternity hour, you wouldn't be able to speak very much. So we send good wishes to Romy, and Sinead will do a very brilliant job, I know, in talking the whole project that she's been involved with, and that'd be fantastic. So we'll come back to Sinead in a mo, and I'll just highlight for those of you who are with us, and I know we might have some new people and we have got some old friends with us, so welcome to both. Now, for those of you who are new, you may or may not know that the Maternity Hour was born in the first COVID lockdown in the UK. And that was in 2020, and it's now 5 years. And I can hardly almost believe we've been going and doing this maternity hour for 5 years, but we have. And we set it up really to make sure that midwives, student midwives, people within the maternity services were able to have some connection and some continued professional development together. And initially, we did a lot about COVID because people didn't know very much about it, but also, and those of you who were around 5 years ago, and a lot of you will have been, will remember there were so many massive changes. It was a very stressful time, but also very busy time, even though a lot of people were told to stay at home. Obviously, as clinicians, a lot of you were out there working. So there's a lot of time spent and a lot of discussion around changes in service that midwives had to do to ensure services for women and babies and families, and also for educating students at that time, making sure students were protected but also got their experience. So this maternity hour fulfilled a good purpose then and continues to do so. And of course, now we're able to go back and we have our maternity and midwifery festivals, which is lovely and really fantastic. I have to advertise them there, and I'll advertise at the end of the hour, because it's a fantastic way of us meeting each other, doing a bit of networking. Us midwives do like to chat and like to network, don't we? And learn new things. So it's a really good opportunity. So if you can make one of the maternity and midwifery festivals, do so. We have them all over the UK, so you should be able to see one fairly locally. The other thing I think is a bit unique about the Maternity and Midwifery Forum is that we record everything. So the Maternity and Midwifery Hour is all taped and recorded, as are all the festivals, so you can access the material after the date. Now, if you have, this is important, because if you have say you get called away this evening, and try not, because you're going to enjoy this evening, or if you have a power cut or a mouse chews through your internet cable, and that has happened to us on the Maternity and Midwifery Festivals once. Very exciting. But everything's recorded, so you can catch up if you miss anything, and that's really useful to know. And we have a massive back catalogue of fantastic clips and videos and presentations. So if you're doing a project dissertation, if you're just interested to look at particular topics, or if you're doing your revalidation, it's a fantastic resource. The health warning is that once you start digging around and having a look at some of the presentations, you'll want to look at more. That's your health warning for this evening. So again, I'll say a big thank you to the midwives and the maternity care assistants and the student midwives and all the people providing care at the moment. Big thank you. You're doing a good job, and carry on doing it, because I know that we need more midwives. So we need to hang on to our student midwives. We need to hang on to our lovely midwives and get better and better at what we do. Okay, so the news is, well, there's a big piece of news. Last week was the decision to abolish the NHS England bit of the NHS. And I know there was a little frenzy of anxiety because people thought it was the NHS that was being abolished, and it's not that, it's the sort of structure. And we don't know the structure that's going to result, but I'm sure we'll get to find out over the coming few weeks, and we'll make sure we get something on the maternity hour about it, just so we know. So at the moment, it's National Women's History Month, and there's a great links in resources, plus a calendar, Women's History Month calendar. And you know I love a calendar. And there's a little activity for every single day of the March month. So I'm not going to tell you all about that, because some of them you could spend a bit of time doing some of the activities, and they're really interesting, like going to a virtual museum exhibition or finding out quotes from inspiring women. And I have to say, those of you who are doing any assignments, very useful to have a really good quote at the beginning of your piece of work. Little tip from me. Okay, it's also Neurodiversity Celebration Week, and we had a session on neurodiversity a few weeks ago, so that's a good thing to celebrate. And Friday is World Down Syndrome Day, and this is the thing where you're meant to wear odd socks, and that's to kind of celebrate the kind of quirkiness in a way of DNA. I think that's where it's all come from. So odd socks and standout socks. And it's really focusing on improving services for families with people with disabilities such as Down syndrome, who need more facilities and support to achieve their best potential. And again, we had a session from a few weeks back on Down syndrome, and that was very useful. Also, the NMC today have published the NMC Culture Transformation Plan. And you'll know there's been a lot of activity at the NMC, and this is aiming to transform their organisation culture, 3-year plan, underpinned by strong anti-racist ethos and commitment to improve the experience of the public and nursing and midwifery professionals. And there are 6 pillars that have been included. And I won't say very much more because I've put this on your resource list, so you can actually go and look at the report. It's 30 pages long, but I think it's quite straightforward to get through. And again, we'll have something about it a little bit further down the line to keep up with it. And I also want to say, actually, that my moment of the week was seeing the 2 astronauts coming down into the sea this week. The 2 astronauts, Sunny and Butch, back from space after their slightly longer stay than they were expecting. Can you imagine going on holiday for 8 days and then ending up there somewhere for 8 or 9 months? You'd have been worried about what you'd packed. I think they were sorted out with little deliveries every now and then. But what I thought was lovely was the grace of the pod coming down and the little parachutes, and then the dolphins. Wasn't that fantastic? I love that. So that, welcome back to Sunny and Butch. So that's that. Okay, so I'm going to move along now because I don't want to miss too much of this with Sinead. We're going to be looking at advanced midwifery practice and the challenges and possibilities. And I say challenges and possibilities because we've had debate and discussion about advanced midwifery practice for many years. Many people want to aspire to it, and there's been sort of confusion about what does it look like, how do you do it, and how do you, more importantly, how do you make clear to women and babies, not the babies, they'll sort of listen to whatever, but the mothers and families, so they know what an advanced practitioner is, so from a safety point of view. And so thinking about how we're improving our proficiencies, and our knowledge and scope of practice. There's a real need to clarify this for practitioners. So also I need to say to you that full CV of our speakers, and which would have included Romy, is also online. So I'm just going to briefly do edited highlights for Sinead. Sinead O'Kane, she's a highly motivated midwife, which I think you'll see as she starts speaking. 30 years experience in a wide range of midwifery and senior management posts across diverse operational and corporate roles, settings and services. She's been the head of midwifery and gynecology in Northern Ireland, and she's currently advanced practice advisor for Northern Ireland at the NMC. So welcome, Sinead. Thank you so much for coming this evening to share the NMC advanced practice regulation review. The screen is now yours.
Thank you so much, Sue. Thank you. So I'm delighted to be able to come tonight to talk to you about the advanced practice review that I participated in with the NMC. As Sue has said, I am the midwifery advisor for Northern Ireland, and I work alongside 3 other midwifery advisors: Pamela Galloway for Scotland, Judith Cutter from Wales, and Romy Luxon from England. And unfortunately, as Sue says, Romy was supposed to be presenting with me tonight, but Romy is unfortunately ill, so we do wish Romy a speedy recovery. I will do my best to represent all 4 countries and try to give you a flavour of where we're at with advanced practice midwifery in all 4 of the countries. So all 4 countries have an advanced practice framework, and it involves the 4 pillars. So we all know it's clinical practice, leadership, education, and research. Advanced practice, so what is it? So the RCM have defined advanced practice in midwifery as a level of practice underpinned by experience and expertise and enhanced by master's level education. It demonstrates influence and impact on midwifery practice across the clinical practice, education, research, and leadership. It's an opportunity for professional development and can support the midwife to accelerate into future career and pathways. Very important, it is maxi midwives, not many doctors. So where does advanced practitioners currently based? Where are they based in maternity? So in England, this is where they're based, and then I'll tell you about the other 3 devolved countries. So in triage and day assessment units, in enhanced maternity. You can't see it? Oh, I have it started, but I'll do it again.
Having a few gremlins.
Yeah, because I have started it.
Okay.
So do you want to, I did share the presentation because there seems to be a problem with it on this end. Do you see it now?
I can see them not at the
Hi, sorry, can you advise me where we're at with am I starting from the very beginning? Yeah, I think so. So advanced practice. So I am the midwifery advisor for Northern Ireland from the advanced practice in the NMC. And next slide, please. And just to say that I'm working along with 3 other midwifery advisors, Pamela Galloway for Scotland, Judith Cutter from Wales, and Romy Luxon from England. So the 4 of us have been seconded to work together with the NMC on what advanced practice review for midwifery services. Next slide, please. So all 4 countries have advanced practice frameworks, and they all involve 4 pillars. So the clinical practice, leadership, education, and research. Next slide, please. So what is advanced practice? So the RCM defined advanced practice midwifery as a level of practice underpinned by experience and expertise and enhanced by master's level education. It demonstrates influence and impact on midwifery practice across the clinical practice, education, research, and leadership. It's an opportunity for professional development and can support the midwife to accelerate into future career pathways. Very important, it is about maxi midwives and not mini doctors. Next slide, please. So where is advanced practitioners currently based in maternity? So across the 4 countries, England is the only country that has advanced practice midwives currently working in it. So in the England, they're working in triage, the assessment unit, enhanced maternal care, maternal medicine networks, community hubs, so maintaining continuity of care model for care, postnatal care services, perinatal mental health, and perinatal and pelvic health. And the working areas will be responsible for the needs of the population by the trust, and the success of the role largely depends on the work plans and the governance put in place at trust level. They're not there to plug gaps in doctors' rotas. They're not a medical substitution. They not just clinical skills. So advanced practice midwives in England aren't just advanced practice because of their clinical skills. Their competencies and competent across the 4 pillars, but may not be weighed equally across the 4. It may vary. And the scope and the role will absolutely depend on the needs for the local population. Next slide, please. So it's important that the practice rules vary a lot, making it hard to provide complete clarity. It is hard even for a non-advanced practice professional to understand and describe, and the professions in question should be highly qualified to master's level, can work autonomously, work in partnership with you, and lead and manage the care, and often be a prescriber. So next slide, please. So advanced practice in midwifery, you can see we often get asked, this is a regular question that we're asked whenever we're out talking about advanced practice, but people would ask us, what is the difference between an advanced practice and a specialist midwife, or indeed a consultant midwife? So how we would describe this in this slide, you can see the example. So the specialist enhanced midwife is usually a senior midwife with a particular area of interest, may or may not be underpinned by academic level 7 study, may work across some of the 4 pillars, but not usually across all 4 pillars. So for an example, an infant feeding midwife may have specialist skills and knowledge on infant feeding. They may provide training and education on breastfeeding, and also work in a clinical pillar. Some may also have some of the leadership pillars. However, they may not be involved in research, and the level and breadth in which they offer the pillars, they cover the pillars, may not be to the extent which an advanced clinical practitioner are covering them. And if we look at advanced, so they've got the research, the leadership, education, training, and clinical. As you will mostly be aware, advanced clinical practitioners have underpinned academic knowledge to level 7. They work across the 4 pillars and they're working at an advanced level. They may have particular area of interest or specialty. However, advanced practice is seen as a level of practice and not just specialty or defined list of skills. They should be covering all 4 pillars of advanced practice within their role. And although the weighing across the 4 pillars may vary, so it's a more generalized than specialized role, and they may work across many areas of maternity using their in-depth knowledge and clinical assessment and history taking and diagnostic skills, etc. And then we have our consultant. So a consultant midwife works over 5 pillars, the 4 pillars that we've already talked about, and the 5th pillar, which is consultancy. The general consensus is that a consultant midwife will work less clinical time and more strategic versus an advanced clinical practitioner. And they'll lead new developments, quality improvements, etc., and have completed or working towards a PhD, and can be this can be a separate career pathway, but it may also be part of a career progression. Next slide, please. So the advanced practice review for NMC. So the NMC 2020 to 25 strategy committed an NMC to undertake a comprehensive review of advanced practice in nursing, including consideration of whether additional regulation is needed. Their NMC's corporate plan for 22-23 included a discovery phase to look at the decision to extend the scope of this review to include midwifery. So in September 2023, the CNOs and the CMOs from each country nominated a senior midwife to join the NMC on a secondment to be the midwifery advisor for their countries on the NMC practice review. Next slide, please. So the background and context. So all nurses and midwives and nursing associates practicing in the UK are required to be on a register, and that does include those in advanced practice roles. However, the NMC register does not identify those practicing in advanced practice roles, and they don't set standards for advanced practice or approved advanced practice programs. There is no standardized or agreed definition of what an advanced practice practitioner is in the UK, and the variation across employment settings and education preparation adds to the risk. The 4-country workforce plans are clear about growing the advanced practice workforce. Next slide, please. So there was consensus when we were doing the review in the first phase. There was real consensus across all the groups, and including the public advisory group, that additional regulation is an opportunity to reduce the variation, provide consistency, enhance public perception, and strengthen confidence and trust, and provide clarity across the sector. The NMC seemed to play a key role in mitigating risks from the variability and the inconsistency through additional regulation. So this is all about public safety and safety for our women and their babies. Professionals should feel supported in development and delivering the advanced practice role, and that the public should be clear and would be confident that advanced practitioners have met required standards and are competent and capable in their roles. Next slide, please. So in March of last year, so March 2024, we took our findings from phase 1 to the NMC Council, and they agreed that additional regulation is needed for both nursing and midwifery, and that we should progress to phase 2. So they agreed that that was for us to develop standards of proficiency for the advanced level of practice and associated education programme standards, adopt a collaborative approach to develop a UK-wide AP framework incorporating a shared position or definition of an advanced level practice, and ensure that advanced level practice requirements are included in the wider review of revalidation and the code, which is scheduled to take place next year, 2025 to 2026. Next slide, please. So the progress to date and what's the next steps. So we are presenting the principles for advanced practice to the NMC Council on the 26th of March next week. So bringing clarity, hopefully what these regulations will do, these principles will do, will bring clarity and consistency to advanced nurses and midwifery practice across the UK. It will enable the public to understand the role of what an advanced practitioner is by setting clear expectations for their practice. It will help employers to develop and sustain systems in which advanced practice can thrive. And if these practices are approved by Council, they'll be published during May and help to develop new advanced practice education standards and standards of proficiency in 2027. Next slide, please. So thank you, and I'm open for any questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sinead. That's fabulous. Goodness gracious. That's it's a huge piece of work. And it's really, I have to say on behalf of our audience, how fantastic it is. We've got it hot off the press. These principles, we don't know what they are yet because they're not out till next week. This time next week, I assume that the council will be discussing them and deciding whether they need any adjustment or can be approved ready-made, which is fantastic. So as always, we have things nice and new by the people who are actually doing the work. Fantastic. Because and so the practice education standards, they'll have some separate standards purely for advanced practice, which will they be adjoining the proficiencies, or will it be a separate little book of activities, do you think?
Yeah. I think it will probably be a separate book. It will be probably separate because you're going to be on the register as an advanced practitioner. So what is it? What proficiencies? What have you got that makes you an advanced practitioner?
Yeah. So perhaps not as thick as this one.
Hopefully not.
This is always on by the side of me. Yeah. That's again. That's going to be a huge piece of work. And presumably the heads of the lead midwives for education are going to be involved in organising that alongside, or is it going to be more practice focused, do you think?
No, I think it'll be across educational. The lead midwives for education will certainly be involved in that. Yes.
Fabulous. Okay. Because the other thing I was thinking as you were talking, because I know years and years ago there was a whole discussion about advanced practice, and there was a whole thing about if you were you're a Von Toos practitioner, for example, you're an advanced practitioner, and I know there was a lot of debate about that sort of skill, and I like the fact you were saying about maxi midwives rather than mini doctors, which was lovely. But I wonder if is there going to, when in the work that you were doing, were you finding a kind of list of advanced practitioners you could kind of think about? Okay, because you said something about infant feed advanced practitioners, for example. So can you? I'm thinking like a teacher now. Sorry, audience. I'm thinking how are we going to do these education kind of proficiencies and standards for several different themes of working?
Yeah. So I think one of the things I learned very quickly when we started this review is that for England, they've come a long way from in the last 8 years on how they're seeing advanced practice. And the advanced practice midwives trainees numbers are increasing in England. So if you think back in 2016, the Better Births report highlighted the need for multi-professional working, and that we needed to break down the barriers to provide world-class, safe, personalised care for women and their babies. The improvement work in partnership to develop national framework for advanced practice, which ensures there's national consistency, was also a piece of work that was carried out in England. And in response to Better Births, the Health Education England maternity programme established a project to develop midwifery standards via a framework relating to advanced clinical practice in midwifery. And this is the only framework for midwifery advanced practice. The other 3 countries don't have that.
Oh, okay.
There's a real lack of clarity. You ask about what we came up with. There was a real lack of clarity regarding what constitutes an advanced clinical practitioner in midwifery, even among heads of midwiferys and directors of midwiferys. And that's because there seems to be some trusts have developed advanced practice roles and gained that we traditionally would not see. It's not the level of practice. It may have been to plug gaps within the medical rota. May have been to assist in cesarean sections. And that's absolutely not where we want to be. We are not trying to be mini doctors. We want to be, as I say, maxi midwives. So it's about making sure that the competent, that there's a mapping exercise between the NMC standards and the multi-professional framework. When they did that, what they found was that there could be some people that were calling themselves advanced practice midwives, but there was no evidence that they met advanced practice. They didn't have that where they're working across the 4 pillars, where they're working at level 7 education, where they've had a master's. The level of complexities that they're dealing with wasn't evidenced there. So there's multiple midwives with the title of advanced practitioner. However, there's limited understanding what the role really means. So what we discovered fairly early on was when we were going out asking our midwives and sitting in different forums talking about an advanced midwifery practitioner, they didn't really understand what we were talking about because there was no agreed definition. So one of the things myself and Pamela Galloway did was we went to Women's Liverpool and to learn and meet advanced midwifery practitioners. And oh my goodness, what an enthusiastic, passionate group of women, of midwives. They were unbelievable. And they actually talked us through of what would it look like? What was a day in the life of advanced midwifery practitioner in their unit? And it was amazing. They talked about working within the triage, within the day obstetric or the day maternity admission unit, and how they were able to provide the full remit of care, how it was much better experience for the women and their families, how the length of time in the hospital was reduced greatly, and how they got all that whole holistic approach. And that really sort of sent home the message to us of the importance of the benefits of an advanced midwifery practitioner within our own countries, what service improvement work could be done, how that could really meet the population health. And it helped us articulate what that advanced midwife had to offer, what skill sets they had and what they had to offer. And quite often you'll hear midwives catching on to the word autonomous practitioner, and they say, oh, but we are autonomous from our point of registration. Yes, we are, but that being autonomous at the point of registration doesn't make us an advanced practitioner. We need the expertise, we need the experience, we need the expertise, we need the skill sets, we need to be dealing with that level of complexities, can't speak tonight, and how we are improving the health outcomes for her mummies and their babies.
Yeah. I mean, it's amazing, isn't it? And I hope we've got some of the Liverpool women's midwives on at the moment. I don't know yet. There's a few questions coming through now, but I mean, it's quite interesting, really, because as you're talking, I'm thinking of the from novice to expert, the Benner book from way back, where you know at the point of registration, that was about nursing, but at the point of registration you knew the stuff, you knew your theory, and you knew you practiced just about by rules, but you got better and better as you got the expertise. So you have a sort of pathway to that point. And as you were talking, I was thinking this advanced practitioner is almost like if you wanted to use a medical model to explain it, it feels a bit like the registrar type role where you're very expert, but you're not quite at that point of as a consultant. And this feels very exciting. It feels really fantastic as a sort of pathway to a high role. And I'm sort of seeing lots more registrars, i.e. advanced practitioners, supporting perhaps a few more consultant midwives, which would be lovely. Anyway, we have some questions coming through. So thank you for clarifying that. It's really helpful. And the first question is from Sana Gull. Hi, Sana. And now forgive me looking away. This is where all the questions are coming through to me. And Sana says, I'm a BSc nurse and doing MSc in midwifery as a top up. Gosh, that's a big top up. And have 4 years of clinical experience in community midwifery, have been involved in clinical audits as well. Could I be an advanced practitioner in this case, or what else do I need to do? Well, that's a big question, Sana. I don't know if you could answer that, Sinead.
I think, Sana, what we need to wait on is approval from council for what the principles look like. And then the continuation of that work will be what is the proficiencies then, and what's the standards of education. And then there will absolutely be that opportunity to transition across. Does your current skill set match what the criteria is to be a advanced practitioner? And then you can see. But at the minute, I'm afraid I couldn't tell you what more you'll need until council have approved.
And if it's like the standards of proficiency, there'll be a lot of different bits of framework. So it won't just be one very narrow channel, especially to get those kind of different roles that you have to include. Okay, thank you for that, for starting us off with that, Sana. We've got Julie, it's kind of linked. Hi, Julie. And Julie says, will there be a set of competencies written just for midwives to meet in their training that replaces the multi-professional standards currently used? Multi-professional standard. Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's quite, Julie, because my understanding is these are specifically for midwives, but there might be others that you're referring to. I don't know. Did you want to answer that one, Sinead, or are you as puzzled as me?
Yeah, I'm slightly puzzled, but I do know with one of the things that we did talk about was that the proficiencies would be specific to midwifery.
I think it'd be hard. I think it'd be too loose if you widened it out. I think that's possibly why in some ways nurses have it easier because they have their kind of specialisms, whereas we're a huge specialism. You could think like that. Thank you. Okay, Debbie, and she says, hi, Debbie. She says, hi, Sinead, very interesting. I'm currently doing my dissertation on the value of AP in community midwifery, based on the research you've already undertaken across the UK. Do you feel that this will shape a standard for staffing models, and what activity will add to patient safety and experience of APs in midwifery? Wow, this is going to be a really interesting dissertation, Debbie. I can see. Fantastic. What do you think, Sinead?
Yeah, well, I certainly think that one of the driving forces for looking at this was when you think of the workforce planning that's going on in each country, and you think of the population health and how it has changed so much, and it's become, and each country is looking, how can we attract midwives, and how can we retain them? And I absolutely think having another pathway, having another area where you can go into without having to come away from the patient facing, from that woman being with the woman in the clinical settings, but having that ability to broaden will absolutely help the workforce. Additional regulation will certainly, I believe, provide better safety, because it gives you what is the skill sets required. So being very clear that that's what the public can expect. And one of the things that we discovered from our public advisory group was that they were very clear. They wanted a definition for advanced practice that they could understand, that wasn't all our professional terms and our professional language. They wanted something that they could really understand. What's an advanced practitioner mean to me? What does that mean? What do they look like? So we have both a public facing definition and a professional facing definition. And it's because it was very much driven by them, so they could understand what skill sets have you got that my other midwife doesn't have, or, you know, and what can you bring? How can you ensure my care is safe and robust, and all those other.
Wow, thank you. Okay, and then we've got Sana, who I think is talking to Debbie. Says, hi, Debbie, I'm a community midwife and looking for career development in community as a midwife. Would love to read your work in this regard. So this is going to be a little bit of sharing there. Well done. Well done, Debbie and Sana. It's good. So we've got a little festival feeling going on here with some networking. Fantastic. And then we've got Debbie says, hi, Debbie says, I agree. We need to safeguard midwifery skills and confidence and educate and inspire peers in increasing complex world of maternity care. And actually, it's comparatively recently, really, that if you wanted to be promoted anywhere in midwifery, you had to leave the bedside, you had to leave clinical to get anywhere. And this is a much, as Sinead's pointed out, this is a way of holding on to our midwives and holding on to our midwives' skills that are so precious. So thank you for that. And then we have a question from Juliet Samuel, who's an old friend. Good evening. If there's not clarity of the role and expectations of an advanced practitioner, will that lead to challenges within their practice, as well as assessing performance within the role as seen by the trust and the NMC?
And that's, we really do hope that the principles that we have set out, that is going to council next week, does provide clarity, does provide that framework for having very clear what is the skill sets required, what are we measuring people against, and what can we offer.
And presumably in each trust you'd have, maybe the maternity service would decide presumably how many advanced practitioners they wanted to have.
Yeah.
So I mean, it might not be, I mean, I'm not sure, but you're not envisaging that, you know, I might decide to call myself an advanced practitioner because I've got lots of skills. And so I can set myself up in the trust like that. I'm assuming it's going to be a little bit controlled.
And that is actually what has happened in some of the trusts in England. So that is part of what has driven this about looking at additional regulation, so that it's clear you're on the register as an advanced practice midwife, and therefore you can call yourself that. Anyone that's not on the register won't be able to call themselves. You know, if they can't transition over, then there'll be additional development and training and whatever to bring them to the level. So it's to provide better clinical governance and public protection.
Fabulous, thank you. That's fun. And Anne Leyland, hi Anne, she says, has there been any research and evaluation done on advanced practice? Good question, Anne.
So at the very beginning of this, now I'm trying to remember the name of, was it Nightingale did a review of advanced practice, and that's what helped to inform for the initial phase of this. And it was looked at right across. So yeah, I can provide that. So if you want the resources, yes.
Okay, that's fantastic. I know you were mentioning, I'm assuming that this was there's a toolkit and there's this report from the Health Education England that's available. And there's of course advanced practice position statement by the RCM.
Yes.
It's also on the reading list for people. Okay, so we've got Patience Jumper. Hi Patience, how are you? And she says, hi Sinead, thanks for the presentation. I've been part of conversation regarding AP roles and the framework. The pillars appear to align closely with the pillars of consultant midwives. From your expertise, how do the two roles differ actually in clinical practice? Because I think you described in your slide, didn't you, the slight differences?
Yeah, so what we when we were looking at this, the consultant midwife does work on with the 4 pillars, but also the 5th pillar, which is that consultancy. So they're working more at a strategic level. They may be involved more in quality improvement and pieces of work and research and service development. They wouldn't be just as clinical or have as much clinical input as an advanced practitioner. So that's the difference.
Wonderful, thank you. It's lovely.
Sorry,
Sorry.
Sue, in there.
Just to add, sorry.
Apologies, Sue. Just to clarify, you don't have to be an advanced practitioner to be a consultant midwife. You know, it could be 2 separate pathways. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess there are a lot of existing consultant midwives who've followed different pathways anyway, so they probably will. Thank you for that. Okay, and Sana Gull, hi again, Sana, and says, do we have a timetable or timeline for council approval and the standards available publicly to follow with trusts to set a standard across countries? Also, when will be a possibility to register in the NMC as an AP role? Sana, you're in a hurry.
So as they say, we're taking the principles to council next week, the 25th. And then what will happen after that is that the council will hopefully approve. I'm hoping they approve. Then they'll be they'll be published in May time. And then the timeline for the NMC's pieces of work is 2026-27 for the standards for education and their proficiencies.
I think Sana is in a hurry. Sana, these things do take a wee bit of time because you have to involve people well and consult people. And when you're designing things like proficiencies, the little itty bitty bits, it does take longer often than you think that it does. But thank you for the question. It was a good question. And a clarification, Julie wants clarification. The multi-professional ACP standards are the competencies I have to meet doing my ACP MSc. They're not midwifery specific. Okay.
Yeah, so I think the point maybe is that you're wondering how will that transition over, but absolutely anyone that is currently completed what is the pathway or the career progression at the moment, they will certainly be looked at and try to transition them over to meet whatever the new standards will be or the new proficiencies will be. So that your work's not, your work will
nothing's
not be
wasted.
Nothing will be wasted. Absolutely not. We certainly am not in the view to ruling anybody out. It's about providing consistency.
Because there will be differences with the 4 countries.
Yes.
And so that the principles are kind of the framework that will be used. And then it'll be almost like a little translation. So if you have, particular skills, you'll need to just to kind of look at the proficiencies when they come out and kind of measure them against that. So thank you, that's good. Okay, And then Anne Leyland, Anne, says, so what skills can they do as advanced practitioners? I think that's a good question, but a big question.
So if I talk you through when we went to Liverpool Women's, it was really interesting. So they gave various examples. They gave an example of someone arriving in believing that they had premature rupture membranes. They were able to do all the various screening tests for that, the scanning, diagnose a UTI. Actually, they were able to prescribe the antibiotic for it. Do the whole fetal well-being and mum and discharge her back out to home.
Yeah. Okay. So that's that's with the triage type role.
Triage type of role, yes.
But there'll be a lot of different kind of strands, because I have to say midwives themselves are very creative, and they'll see where there's a service that's required for women and their babies, and that it'll come from that as well, and from, you know, maybe a report that'll come out saying we need this in the trust or we need that in the trust.
Yeah,
Very
and comes in the perinatal mental health
yeah.
Area as well. So there's lots of work to be done in there. Those women have disadvantaged in any way, those vulnerable groups. So there's lots of work going on. And as I say, the community in that continuity of care in the maternity hubs, the community hubs. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Okay. Now we've got a question from and this is a question I think it has been said before, and this is Chris Warren. Hi, Chris. And Chris says, why do we need advanced practitioners? A midwife is a midwife and should be able to meet all women's needs or refer to an obstetrician. And I know this is something that's part of the whole debate that we've had for many years.
It is, yes, but I think the point that was made to me at the very beginning was we have already got advanced practice midwives in England. They're all working at different levels, and there's no consistency in what the standards you should meet. So this is about setting up public protection and providing a governance, good clinical governance, and being very clear what midwives are doing, and make sure that they're working within the scope of practice. And that advanced practice is a level of midwifery within the midwifery scope of practice, not veering into the obstetric role or the pediatric role. And sometimes I think one of the, and certainly within Northern Ireland, we would have looked, when we first heard the words advanced practice, we were thinking of our neonatal advanced practitioner nurses. Mm-hmm. And we know they were brought in, and they're very much seen as plugging that gap in the doctor's rota. So that's where that whole perception in our minds was, oh my goodness, is this what they need? They're putting us into? That's not what the ask is here. That is not what we have signed up to.
No, that's grand. Thank you. Now we're running out of time for questions, but we have a few more. So we've got Anne Leyland again. Hi, Anne. Another bite of the cherry, who's saying, is there a difference between specialists and advanced practitioners?
Yes, so a specialist, and I think I did try and apologies if I didn't explain it very well. So a specialist or an enhanced, as they're sometimes referred to, midwife, usually is a senior midwife with a particular area of interest. They may or may not have academic level 7 study. They may work across the 4 pillars, but not usually across all 4. They may work across 2 or 3 of them, not usually across all 4. So the example I gave was the infant feeding midwife, and that she has specialist skills and knowledge of infant feeding, and may even provide training, education on breastfeeding, and also work in that clinical pillar. And some might even work within the leadership pillar. However, they will not have the involvement in the research and the level and breadth of the cover of the pillars to the extent in which an advanced clinical practitioner would be covering. Hopefully that
I think that probably, yes, I think it's there are a lot of similarities in a way, because they're used interchangeably, I think, sometimes. And then Stella, so this is a good one, Sinead. These all, I have to say, our audience are fabulous and can always come up with good questions. The Stella says, is there going to be a set standards? If there's going to be set standards for AP, will the same be expected for consultant midwives?
Good question, and we were being asked that quite a bit.
Yes.
So yeah, the remit was very clear. This was about advanced practice. We weren't looking at consultants, but you would assume that once we have this, the NMC set standards for this, that yes, there will be setting standards for consultancy. No one's told us that, but that's a natural flow. And just to say, the piece of work we were involved in wasn't about, was there a need for advanced practitioners in midwifery? It was about they're already there, and we've got, is there a need to have additional regulation for them? So that's the angle we were coming at. That was our brief, if you like.
Yeah. So I mean, it's all about safety for women and babies anyway. So that's fabulous. So I've got a few comments. And Juliet Samuel's come back again to say, I'd like to see the AP's role steeped within clinical practice, but with regulation that the practice exhibited can be aligned throughout the UK, so the variations are reduced, as this would weaken conceptually what it means to be an advanced practitioner. And that's absolutely right. Thank you, Juliet. That's beautifully put. And then Abby, hi Abby, says, where roles don't currently exist within local trusts, how can we help support senior staff to introduce AP roles? I currently hold an MSc in advanced practice and midway through my PhD, but currently working as a band 6 in an acute unit.
And do you know what? Events like this, us being out and about, us talking about it, us raising the profile of what an advanced practice midwife, I certainly know that, and I know that my colleague Judith and Pamela would say the same thing. Because we were representing our countries and we were coming back and able to articulate what it looks like, we could articulate the benefits, we could articulate all those service improvements. The conversations are now happening in the devolved countries. So I think it is events like this, it is raising the profile and keeping it very live, keeping the conversation up there. Let's not let it go back down, because as I showed in the timeline, 8 years since they've been talking about advanced practice in midwifery. The Better Births report are way back. You know, we've
Probably
got all
longer. It's probably longer, Sinead. It's a long time.
Yeah,
Probably.
probably. This is 2012 actually. Yeah, it is much longer. And if we look at, you know, there was where they talked about, you know, improving and expanding our roles and what we can do to meet their population health. So we've got all the evidence there, and I think that's how we help to promote this.
I think, Abby, if you think about safety and quality, and maybe involve your colleagues, maybe share, because remember that you could share this whole session with colleagues over coffee or something, I don't know. And also once something comes out next week, you'll have more to share and discuss. So I think it's important we discuss it, because we need to get it set in our minds, because it's a big issue and it's quite a big step for us, because of the thing that Chris brought up about midwives being midwives. We don't lose that midwife bit. And I know that people before have said to me things like, well, they won't want me, they'll want that advanced midwife. They won't, you know, I'm just an ordinary midwife. We're not just ordinary midwives. We're all on that pathway anyway. Okay, I'm coming, as I always say, this is the fastest hour in the week. And I'm just got a continuation from Chris Warren. Hi, Chris again. And she sort of said, I sort of resent the need for a master's. There are many competent midwives working at advanced level or a consultant level without recognition. I'd like to see a space for clinical midwives to be seen as advanced, but not paid differently. Well, that's a whole different ball game. Because you've weaved in, Chris, well done. You've weaved in the academic bit of it, and as well as the financial aspect. And of course, trusts will be anxious about, oh, we can't afford too much. Please don't. Everyone's going to be looking at money. But also I take the point about the advanced, the kind of academic bit, because I know, you know, the clinical experience needs to be valued, but I'm very aware there's a lot of work out there developing clinical attributes so you can get academic value in your clinical practice skills. And so look out for things like that locally. And I think this is Chris as well. I think midwifery prescribing should be part of all midwives' role. We normally, as community midwives, tell the GP what we want them prescribed. Well, that's true enough. That's true enough. That's fabulous. Well, thank you. A huge thank you. Thank you to Sinead for being the sole messenger this evening of such a huge project. And congratulations for the work that you as a team have done, because it is raised the debate and has actually given us the idea of these principles. I wish best of luck on Wednesday, that they're taken through and developed, because it seems a good pathway to me. And fantastic. So a huge thank you to you for joining us. I want to also thanks Angelo for being in the background and being the slide sharer this evening, and also making sure everything is going to be available on sometime this week, and also for the 6 o'clock podcast, 6 o'clock in the morning, Friday morning, and also next week on the Tuesday newsletter. And many apologies for our initial little gremlin event. We just sometimes happens, and we did all the technical stuff and checked, and it just something went wrong. We apologize, but actually we've had such a fantastic discussion, and thank you so much to the audience for coming up, as always, with such superb questions. Now, also thank you to Paul for feeding them through to me. Resources will be available. Now, next week, we're going to be looking at stress, burnout and self-care, plus complementary therapies. And we've got the doctors, Denise Turan and Dr. Gina Finity. So that'll be fantastic. We've also, don't forget to book for infection control on the 25th of March, 1 to 2. That's a Zoom event with Dr. Racial Maguire and Professor Dinah Gold. And the Midlands Festival on the 20th of May. And we've got a fantastic lineup. You've got to book for this. If you can be in Nottingham on the 20th of May, is the place to be. And in the meantime, please do stay safe and take care of yourselves, and we'll see you this time next week. Take care.